Hey, 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 how y'all doing? It's your girl P. How y'all doing? Tea time with your girl P. I hope y'all got y'all tea together. I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes to join in. How are y'all doing today, this happy Tuesday? I hope all is well this Tuesday morning. Mm, 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 mm. Y'all hit me up in the comments when y'all get here. Today's going to be a good conversation. Hey, y'all hit me up in the comments when y'all get here. Let me know y'all on here. I'm going to give y'all another minute or so to get here. And if this is your first time joining in, welcome, welcome, welcome. I know some of y'all, this is your lunch break. And for some of y'all, y'all just at work. And some of y'all teleworking. Some of y'all in other countries. Oh, and also if you're new, you will not hear music. I just be jamming in my head. Or I might hum a little bit. Hey. Hey. Join in, share. Make sure you share. Join in the conversation. We're talking about toxic people and relationships today. It seems that a lot of people are dealing with toxic relationships. A lot of people are dealing with sorry. Technical issues going on over here. Okay. I think we all set up now. I hope y'all got your tea. I got some coconut water right now. So bear with me. Bear with me. But I do have my tea as well. Got my tea. Let me see. It might be too hot. I might need to. Oh, I can feel the steam from this one. Ooh, yeah. Let me let that cool off. And while we are getting started, let me know how y'all define toxic people and toxic relationships. Since y'all don't want to tell me, hey, tell me how y'all define toxic people and toxic relationships. What does that look like to you? Ew. I didn't know I was being loud. Sorry. I do have a mic, and a mic might be exuberating. Is that the right word? It sounds like the right word. The mic might be exuberating the water going down my throat. Sorry. So sorry. So how do y'all define toxic people and toxic relationships? Because y'all not gonna sit here and make me believe that I am the only one who has experienced toxic relationships, toxic people. You're not gonna make me believe it. You're not gonna make me believe it. Oh, now I'm sipping and slurping. So I see we want to be quiet today. So I'm going to talk about how this woman, I'm assuming she's a woman, Caroline Staber, she wrote an article about toxic, no, I don't want to start there. But she did write an article, and I'm going to talk about the article later. But I want to talk about how toxic people present themselves. I want to say that when toxic people present themselves, they present themselves as manipulative, liars, controlling, abusive, gossipers. They're always negative. And we know this because their presence is very harmful and unpleasant. Angelica Caraballo, yes, toxic relations equals over controlling, possessive, bullying. You're absolutely right. And as I was previously speaking, and welcome to the Tea Time with P. Angelica. I hope you got your tea together. But toxic relationships, according to Carolyn Staber, an article she wrote back in 2018 about the difference between toxic relationships and just having a rough patch in relationships. The difference is when you're in a toxic relationship, there is consistent destruction. It's not just, right now, it's consistent over time. Like it never changes. The individual in the relationship never takes responsibility, always blaming the other person, never takes responsibility for their actions, what they do, don't do, say. There's always somebody else's fault. And then when that person is unwilling to change, if that person is unwilling to change, even though you said that this is a problem for you, and they're just like, so, yeah, you're more likely in a toxic relationship than having a rough patch in a relationship. And I will always say, abuse is definitely a toxic relationship. If you're in an abusive relationship, emotional, physical, mental, gaslighting, psychological, that is a toxic relationship. Label it as such. Seek assistance immediately. So depending on who this toxic person is in your life, let me go back. Toxic relationships. So again, a lot of times when we hear toxic relationships, we think romantic relationships, but these toxic relationships can be co-workers, family, siblings, parental, cousins, friends. You can find toxic relationships in almost any environment. So don't get the notion that only a toxic relationship only exists in a romantic relationship. And that's just not true. And many of us need to get out of the concept that a relationship is just a romantic relationship. No, there are countless different relationships. And depending on who this person is, this toxic person or people, some of these tips that we're going to talk about may be easier or harder depending on the person it is. Some may work better, some will make the situation worse. It depends on who you are and who the person is that you're dealing with. Has anybody out there dealt with toxic relationship? Is it just me? I've experienced a toxic relationship at work and in my personal life. Hey, Keith, thank you for joining in. So you know what these toxic relationships and how they can affect you. According to Kristen Fuller, failing to deal with toxic relationship can have some impacts on you. And Kristen Fuller, back in 2017, when she wrote this article, it says that if you do not necessarily deal with toxic relationships, they can cause you inner conflict, they can cause you to be depressed, they can cause you anxiety, and they can cause you to feel with anger. And I've experienced all four of those. Anybody else out there have experienced those, dealing with toxic people and being in toxic relationships? I can't be alone in this. I won't believe it. But if I am, that's good. It'll be a blessing if I was the only one dealing with that type of stuff. That means everybody else is having a great life, you know what I'm saying? And I really can go ahead and end the Zoom right now. But for those of you who are just shy about commenting, I'm going to keep going because some of y'all don't want to have the conversation because you don't know who's watching, who's listening, whatever the case may be. So I'm still going to go ahead and give you the tips. Hey, Natalie. Yeah, I understand. Thank you for joining in with Tea Time with P. Angel Sills had an abusive marriage. I had one too. Mike Boutte, yes. You're absolutely right. A toxic person will try to put you down even when you're trying to do better. They're just negative and they just want to see everybody either at their level or below. They don't want to see people surpass them. And so they try to keep you in a box. It's poison. Physical and mental abuse. Yep. Me too. Me too. And it's not a good situation to be in. And it definitely left me depressed and with inner conflict within myself, not knowing who I was. I definitely had a whole lot of anger. Definitely had a whole lot of frustration. I even had some fear. She didn't mention fear, but I had fear as well. Right, Keith. You're right. Toxic people are very manipulative. Very manipulative. And they like I said previously, they don't like to take responsibility. And even though they're the one in the wrong, they make it seem like it's you. You're the one messing it up. You're the one because the reason why nothing is working. It's all you and your fault. That's toxic. Because when you're in a relationship, whether it's at work, whether it's with your family, it's at least two people in said relationship. And it's not one person's responsibility. It's everybody that's involved in that relationship responsibility to maintain it. Not just one person. So if you're blaming one person for this, then you might be the one that's toxic. Oh yeah, toxic people love drama. They like to gossip. They like to lie. And as Keith said, they like to manipulate. You're absolutely right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to tip number 1. Tip number 1. Easier said than done, but it is avoid them. Natalie, I'm so sorry to hear that. Physical and mental relationship, and it affects you all the way around. You're right. Because when you're in those type of relationships and you're dealing with those type of people, it affects not only you, but the people around you. It affects your job performance. It affects your kids. Oh, on your watch party, somebody said that their family tried to hurt you. Right. Your family would do it too. And this is why I say, when we say relationships, it's not just romantic relationship. It's not just those two people in a romantic relationship. It could be siblings. It can be mother-daughter, mother-son, daughter-father, co-workers, supervisors, all those relationships. And these relationships, if these people are toxic, they can create a toxic relationship with you. And they will try to hurt you on purpose because they're manipulative and they like drama. So back to tip 1. Just avoid them. Cut them off. Limit your time around them. And I know for some, that's easier said than done because some of the toxic people in your life are your actual parents, are your sisters or brothers, or your supervisor. And you can't just quit your job because you need that money. But if you can avoid them, do what you can to avoid them or limit your interaction with them. And some of y'all can avoid your family members, but just for self-conscious reasons don't want to because they're your family. But just because they're your family, that does not give them the right to mistreat you. And that does not mean that you have to stay around them. You don't have to stay around them if you don't want to. Again, I understand if you're under the age of 18, you have to be around your parents or, it's a job. You can't just separate yourself from your supervisor. I understand some of those situations. But some situations y'all just like, oh, but it's my sister. I can't just, cut my sister off. But you can. It's not selfish when you make yourself a priority. It's not selfish when you make your health and your mental stability a priority. Because if you're not mentally stable, nothing else in your life is going to be able to function properly. It's just not. As Natalie said, it affected her all the way around. Job. If you have these toxic people always around you and it starts affecting your job performance, you're not going to have a job much longer. Just saying. If it's affecting something else, it might affect your relationship with other people, because now you're angry and lashing out. Or you might get depressive and cut everybody off. And then when you start getting alone, and that suicide demon start talking to you, I just think it might be easier, depending on your situation and who you are, just to avoid the whole toxic person as a whole, or limit your contact with them. Hi, how you doing? Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. No, I don't have time to talk to you right now. Man, I need to sip some tea. Ooh, but it's still hot. So I'm gonna finish my coconut water. Just avoid the people. You are important. You are priority. Like they say in the airplane, put your mask on first and then help the other people around you. You are no good to anybody, anyone, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not healthy, if you are depressed, if you are just angry and frustrated all the time, if you are suffering from anxiety, it's not good for anybody. So let's move on to tip number 2. And I know if you talk to me a lot, then you will probably, I just jacked that word up. I think that was way too many syllables. Then you are probably tired of me telling you this. But tip 2, communicate. Have the conversation. Have the conversation. Oftentimes, people don't even know, that they are even being toxic. Because sometimes toxicity is a learned behavior. It's passed down. And they don't even realize that's what they're doing. Not saying that's everybody, because some people just downright manipulative, downright mean, whatever, hurt people. They just downright don't want to see you great because they know that they're not great, or whatever the case may be. But there are some who don't even know it. And if you just have that conversation, their behavior may change. And that goes back to the toxic relationship that I was saying. Are they willing to change? If they're unwilling to change and they don't take any responsibility, then that's a toxic relationship. But if you're able to have that communication, that conversation with them, well, and when I say have that conversation, I'm not lashing out and be like, why are you so negative all the time? Baby, that conversation is not going to end well at all. Period. So we have to learn how to communicate in a way that says, hey, this is how you're acting, and this is how your behavior is affecting me. I'm trying to build a business, but you're constantly saying that I'm doing too much or I'm not doing enough. To me, that's affecting me and my motivation, and I don't want to be around it. Not to give you an ultimatum, but if you can't change how you talk or not say anything about it at all, I'm going to have to reduce the amount of time that I'm around you, and going back to avoiding and limited contact. But you have to be able to have that conversation and not saying, you suck, you did this, you did that, because now you become the toxic person. How many of y'all have tried to communicate with the toxic people in your lives? Am I the only one that had a conversation with their toxic person? When I first had a conversation with my toxic person, it did not go well. I took the petty route. You ugly. Well, your mama ugly too. That is not how you have a good, healthy conversation. Angel, you had that conversation. How did that conversation look for you? Michael, but that you said you had that conversation, but they always try to make it look like it's your fault, and they never take ownership of their actions. Oh wow! Still to this day, they will not accept their faults. Wow, wow. So how did you handle that? So you limit your exposure and energy towards them. Avoidance, which was tip one, and limit that time that you spend with them. Oh, awesome. Angel said her experience wasn't good either, and they wouldn't accept it, but she just prayed about it and moved on. And when people don't accept it, that takes me to tip number 3. Recognize them for who they are. And for some people, that is very hard to do. You label them as being toxic. Don't tell them that they're toxic, because that's not going to work out well. But in your mind, like if you can't avoid them or limit your exposure around them, know who they are so you can know how to deal with them and know how to interact with them. That's just like if you know you're dealing with a doctor, you know what you can say and what you can't say. If you're dealing with a lawyer, you know what you can talk to them about because you know who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a liar, you know that you can't trust their word. If you're dealing with a robber or a thief, you know you're not going to keep your valuables out so they can steal. So if you know who you're dealing with, you know how to operate, you know how to conduct yourself. How are y'all? Have y'all identified the toxic people in your life? Do you know how to identify the toxic people in your life? Ooh. Let's have some tea, shall we? Finally got this tea is cooled off. I think it is. You're gonna know if I burn my tongue. Mike Bate. So how has acknowledging and labeling these people as toxic, how has that helped you in your interaction with them? For me personally, I'm able to respond and avoid as needed, limit conversations. How have how has acknowledging and labeling these people in your life, how has it helped you and helped your energy and helped your positivity or kept you from being depressed? Let's have a conversation. Oh, so I guess Mike Bethea is the only one who has labeled those people in their lives. Mike Bethea, you said you know what type of response to expect, and so you know what you need to do in order to work with them on certain things. Exactly. Exactly. And I'm assuming that reduces your anger and frustration towards them. I guess it's just me and Mike. Nobody else has labeled. So I encourage you, even based on what Mike says, I encourage you to begin to sit down and point out who these toxic people are in your life and how they are infected, how they are not infecting, affecting. Woo wee. And how they are affecting you. And then compare it once you avoid them. Oh, awesome, Mike. He said he no longer gets mad when they try to belittle him. But then I want you to once you label those people, I want you to even and you start avoiding them, look at how you were then and then look at how you're going to be once you make that transition and compare those two people. And that in itself will show you the power in avoiding. Oh, Nick said he see them and leave them. There's too many fake people out there. Angel said, you know who you are and stand on what you know is right. So that brings me to tip number 4. And this is what I usually do after I have labeled these people and I still have to interact with them because I just have to. Maybe they're on my job or whatever the case may be. And so what I tend to do is I get my whole Dragon Ball Z thing and be like, shoo, here goes some positivity. I think I did that right. My husband is an anime fanatic. He got me watching it. But yes, I counteract the negativity with positive. And half the time, when I talk to my husband and I talk to my other mom and they're angry because somebody was so negative to them or mistreated them or whatever the case may be, and I come back with a positive outlook or statement and they're just like, but I want to be angry. No, but you don't have a reason to be. Let's smile. Let's be happy. Nick said, remember, people can only be around you if you let them. They always come up and go. Why waste precious resources that you can put elsewhere? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Nick. But there's some times where you just cannot get away. There are times and situations where it's hard to get away physically. But if you can't get away physically, you can rise above it with positivity. Just like Mike said, once he was able to label who he was, who these people were, he's still able to interact with them, but they're belittling that negativity that they try to throw. It's not as effective as it once was before he started labeling them. Yes, Angel, that's exactly right. That's why people don't like me because I'm always positive. Mike Bethea said, I'm always messing with people's mood. I'm not going to say there's no reason to be angry because there are times where anger is warranted. You would never hear me say, don't cry, don't be angry, don't be sad, because those are the emotions that was given to us as human beings. But what I will say is, how are you going to respond to that? There's no need to be petty and try to fight people and slash tires and bust out windows. Like, for what? That's too much energy. Like, why? Why are you giving people power over you? Rise above it. I remember I walked into a sergeant major office and she was in her feelings that morning. She was doing something. She was like, "Why are you in here?" I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said it with a smile and she couldn't do nothing but laugh. Sometimes it's easier, better for everybody involved if you just hit it with a hint of positivity. You're absolutely right, but they control your emotions. Don't let them control you. You're right. You're absolutely right. The old saying, Angel, misery loves company. Hurt people hurt people. When other people are misery, are living in misery, they want to bring you right there with them. They want to try to control you. They want to manipulate you. They want to lie to you. They want to hold you back from being great because they can't see themselves making a 7-figure business. So they're going to tell you you can't. They're going to say because they can't envision themselves getting promoted, so they're going to tell you you can't get promoted. We have to be able to control the narrative. We are in control in how we perceive and how we react to things. And although when you multiply and divide, well, I think division too. Well, I definitely know multiplication. I can't think math is not my strong point. But when you multiply two negatives that come out as a positive, that don't necessarily work in real life. You hit them with a large dose of positivity, that's going to reduce the amount of negativity that you receive back. How many have tried to respond to their toxic relationships and toxic people with positivity? Because I want to let y'all know that it's not just me, that positivity works. And like Angel said, prayer works too. Prayer positivity. Has anybody been in a toxic situation and right in the middle of it? Right in the middle of it. Some positive, you say something positive or you start smiling and the whole environment changes. The person's whole perspective, actions, behavior towards you change. Mike Bizet said he tried both positive and negative, but he got more progression when he was being positive. As Nick previously said, it's so much fake and negativity in the world. When you hit them with a dose of positivity, it's something new. They deal with negative all the time, but when you hit them with some positive, it's a fresh of breath air. I definitely said that wrong. It's a breath of fresh air. Positivity will change the environment. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to tip number 5, as I encourage you to add a little positivity in your interactions with those toxic people and relationships. I'm going to go to tip 5, which is self-reflection. Self-reflection is needed because so many times We hear about all these toxic people, but we never look at ourselves and our roles in it. And I'm not saying that every time somebody is being toxic towards you, it's because you did something wrong or so forth and so forth. No, but sometimes you do play a role in it. Sometimes how you respond in general affects how people interact with you. If you're already grouchy, how do you think people are going to interact with you? Especially if they're already frustrated and you're frustrated, how do you think people are going to respond to you? Sometimes you have impossible expectations because y'all don't have the conversation of what right looks like to y'all. Y'all haven't set patterns and says, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is why we're going to do it. What do you think? Y'all haven't had those conversations, which is, back in tip number 2, communicate. So you put expectations that the other person doesn't know, or, you put impossible expectations on these people. And you wonder why they're coming off negative. They're coming off, in certain manners. They're coming off angry. They're not toxic, you toxic. And you ain't even realized it. You're attracting toxicity. When you take the time to reflect who you are, you begin to understand who you are and how you deal with people and who you attract and why you attract certain people. If you have a lot of toxic people around you and very few positive people around you, you might need to sit down and do some self-reflection and figure out why. When you begin to understand who you are, you know where that point cuts off at between what somebody is trying to do to you and who you are. Once you know who you are, when they try to belittle you, it'll just bounce off you. Because you're like, I'm greatness. What you mean I ain't nothing? Boy, bye. Girl, please. I'm a whole queen out here. What is you talking about? I'm a whole business owner out here. What is you talking about? I'm making seven figures. It may not be in my bank account yet, but it's on the way. What you mean? But once you know who you are and you're working to be better, the things that other people do to you won't affect you as much. So it is vital to take that time to sit down and do some self-reflection. When you know who you are and the amount of energy, it makes it easier to avoid people or limit your exposure because you already know what your energy is. And when toxic people come around, you can sense it and be like, oh no. Oh no. Let me ask you, how many people do you have coming to dump all their emotions and problems on you? And when they do that, it weighs on you. How are you dealing with those things? I'll wait. Because some of y'all have become trash cans to other people. And when they have a bad day, they just come dump everything on you. And now you're feeling all weighed down. And they're happy and free and living their life. And you're sitting here carrying and holding all that stuff that they just dumped on you. Well, I have experienced that, and I had to sit there and figure out why. Sometimes it's part of your purpose, and sometimes you're just attracting it because you don't know who you are, or you haven't taken the time to sit down and reflect who you are and what your purpose is. And so you just want people around and you allow them to treat you any kind of way. So taking the time to do some self-reflection allows you to look at your biases or your perceptions and the role that you are playing in the interaction with other people. Yes, it was definitely my purpose, but I didn't know that then. But now that I know it is, I'm better able to handle it, and I'm more equipped to deal with people when they come dump all their junk on me. They come dump all their emotions on me. But it started with learning with who I am, taking the time to have some self-reflection. Oh, excuse me. A lot of the Christians say prayer. Some people say meditate. Some people just say have a conversation with the higher power. Whatever it takes. Have that conversation, meditate, pray, do some self-reflection. Figure out who you are. How do you reflect? Have you ever reflected over your life? Have you ever taken the time to say, this is who I am, and understand why you do what you do? And I know I've said this before, but this is my pet peeve, and I hate to hear it. And I got to have this conversation with y'all. I got to have this conversation. It gets under my skin when people say, that's just the way I am. It bothers me so much because you can change who you are if you don't like it. If you don't change who you are, it's because you have accepted it. And just because you accepted that behavior and it's okay to you, don't try to force that on everybody else. Don't try to make everybody else accept it because you don't want to do the work. Because you don't want to do the work to reflect, to heal, to change behavior, change your mindset, change all of that. You're comfortable with how you act and how you respond and how you do this, and you expect everybody else to accept it. We don't have to accept it just because you accepted that behavior. And don't try to force other people to accept it just because you have accepted it. But I'm here to tell you, if you don't like that behavior, you don't like holding that perception that you have, that negative perception that you have, you do not have to stay that way. You don't. We can go through the journey together. I can help you get through those rough patches. I can help you become a better version of yourself so you can have better relationships. So you're better able to deal with conflict and deal with toxic people. We can go through that journey together. DM me, email me, info@pgibbsles.com. I got you. But don't put that pressure on nobody else. Don't do that. You having issues with dealing with the toxic people in your life? You have issues incorporating the tips that I just suggested? You don't have to go through the journey alone. As you heard Angel said, that's part of my purpose. My purpose is to help you through your journey. My purpose is to teach you and equip you so you can be a better version of yourself, so you can better connect with other people, that your relationships around you can be enhanced. I had to go through the fire to help you today. I had to go through 3 divorces. Oh my God. I had to go through abuse. I had to have a poor mindset in order to really understand the pain that you're going through. I had to go through it in order to help you through it, in order to equip you to go through it. You don't have to do it alone. You're not alone. Some of y'all have more negative people around you than you have positive. You don't have a strong support system. And that does not have to be your life. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to dwell in all this negativity that these people are pushing on you. You don't have to stay depressed. You don't have to stay angry. You don't have to keep lashing out, and you don't have to keep stuff bundled in. Because that was definitely me. And my mom and friends will tell you, I was the one to shut down. I would get so angry or sad or hurt or frustrated, and I just be like, and I just shut down. And I just be like, well, I don't know what to say. What is it that you want me to say? What do you want to hear? And sometimes I just start yelling and lashing out because I didn't know how to control the emotions. I didn't know how to deal with toxic people. I was in toxic relationships and didn't know how to be in healthy relationships. I would find a healthy relationship and didn't know how to be in it. When you're always surrounded by toxicity and negativity, it's hard to see the good. It's hard to see the good people around you because you're surrounded in darkness. It's hard to see the light. But baby, when that light shines, the smile comes, the feeling is unspeakable. That peace, that peace that surpasses all understanding. Ha! That peace that even when these toxic people try to belittle you, you can just smile, hit them with a dose of positivity, just smile. You'll be able to control your emotions and be able to have that conversation. Like, hey, this is what you're doing. And this is how your actions are affecting me. Let's see how we can do better. Can you stop this? Or I can try to do this. Would this help you respond better to me? Have the conversation. Work on yourself. Do those self-reflections. Again, you don't have to walk this journey alone. In fact, you can check out my free gift at pgibbslesfreegift.com. It's on dealing with conflict. The sound is poor, but the information is good. I will be updating it within the next week or two. So if you want to hear about conflict, go check out my free gift at pgivesfreegift.com. You don't have to go through this journey alone. I done already went through it, so I can help you through it. Feel free, DM me, email me, info@pgivesles.com. I want to hear from you. Let's have a conversation. And before I end this live, as I always do, I want to give you time to ask questions. Put your comments out there. Let me hear what you got to say. Oh, and I forgot to say this at the beginning. Share this because somebody is dealing with this. Somebody is having issues dealing with toxic people. Somebody is on their last string of hope dealing with toxic people, and they need to see this video. So please share it. Please share it. But again, I'm gonna wait a few minutes and see if you have any comments or questions before I end the live while I sip my tea. I hope y'all was sipping y'all tea because I got to have mine. Thank you, Angel. I'm gonna give y'all another minute or two to ask questions. Put your comments down. And I also wanna make sure that I put this out when we're dealing with relationships, especially romantic relationships and even business relationships. I don't know if I said it, but I have to say this. Y'all make sure that y'all have coffee, tea, that works. But y'all gotta make sure y'all have these conversations and set the standard. My husband and I, we had the conversation to say, this is how we want it to look when we come home. My husband said, when I first get home, I need 30 minutes to digress from the day. Okay, got it. Do we want to, I told him, if I'm doing my homework, he can watch whatever it is that he want to watch. Because I'm not paying attention. But there's other times where I'm like, hey, we're not watching anime. Let's not do that. And he respects that. We had the conversation. Yeah, you can get on the game, but during these times it's this, during these times it's not, you know. Have that conversation of what y'all want it to look like. Not what mom and daddy relationship looked like, not what the relationship was with your other boss, not what it was with this sibling versus that sibling. Y'all have that conversation and build that relationship with each other, because everybody is not the same. Just because boss number one, you and boss number one had this relationship and this is how boss number one did things, that's not necessarily how boss number two is going to do it. So y'all need to have that conversation and see what that relationship looks like to you all. Y'all got to have the conversation. Communication is vital. It's vital. It's like the oxygen in a relationship. Like, if you're not communicating or you're not communicating healthily, that relationship is not going to last very long. Make sure you learn how to communicate. I don't see any more questions or comments, so I am going to go ahead and end this live. And I want to thank you all for joining in. Y'all have a wonderful day. Y'all have a wonderful day. Happy Tuesday. And I'll talk to you all later.